It's the Jeremy Kyle Show, really, isn't it? The Jeremy Kyle Show revolves around outrageous sexual behaviour and people's breathtaking selfishness and a bit of bullying and intimidation and cruelty thrown in. And, of course, with the Jeremy Kyle Show, there is the moral outrage of the studio audience. 3,600 years ago, Genesis 38, I think we've got all the components of the Jeremy Kyle Show just in this one chapter. You can see the first three of my headings on the right-hand side, which gives you some flavour. Judah, the man with no morals. Tamar, the girl with no shame. Burn the whore alive. What is going on here? What is this about? Why is this in the Bible? Let's get into the story, shall we? It is gory. I will do my best to spare your blushes. But my hope is that in 20 minutes' time, you will think, actually, this is a wonderful chapter. Even my hope in 20 minutes' time is you will think to yourself, yeah, maybe this is up there as being one of the best chapters in the Bible. Well, my first heading, Judah, the man with no morals. We saw Judah last week. He is a descendant of Abraham. He is the great-grandson of Abraham. God had declared his intention for the world to Abraham. He was going to change the world through Abraham's descendants. You guys are going to be a huge people. I'm going to give you a place to live, and you guys are going to be a very great blessing to many. Going down the family line, so we've got Abraham, Isaac, Esau and Jacob. We saw last week he had 13 sons in all. Judah is son number 4. Son number 12 is Joseph. As we saw last week, Judah and his brothers detested little boy Joseph. Dad had made him his favourite. Dad had given him that wonderful coat. The brothers decided to murder him. Judah has a better idea, in inverted commas. Judah's better idea is to sell him into slavery and then go and tell Dad he's dead. And God is going to bring blessing through someone like this? We somehow doubt it, don't we? Joseph, maybe. But some people are just dead losses as far as God is concerned, we think. And it would seem Judah is heading down that route. Judah leaves Abraham's family. He wanders off and marries someone who is not one of God's people. The Bible repeatedly warns us against that, so I guess actually we're not surprised that Judah disregards God in this way as well. Perhaps I could just refer you again to that little family tree. Judah gets married, he marries, we don't know what her name is, so I've just put Judah's wife. They have 3 sons, Onan and Shelah, and yes, Shelah really is a boy. We're 3,500 years ago. We are in a very ancient culture, and girls in that culture got married at a very young age. Pretty much when they hit puberty, that is when they got married. So marries this young teenager called Tamar. But is a very cruel, very unpleasant, very wicked man. Quite rarely in the Bible are we explicitly told that the Lord put someone to death, but we are told that here. Tamar, widowed. Now, the thing we need to understand to make sense of this whole story is that the worst possible thing that could happen to you in that ancient culture was to be a widow without children. Because what are you going to do now? There's no life insurance payout, so you've got no money. There are no colleges, so you can't go and train and start a career so you can support yourself. You're part of a nomadic community that lives off the land, and you belong to no one. And when you get older, into your old age, who's going to look after you because you've got no children? And there are no state benefits, there's no old age pension. There is no future for you. So, if, as happened here, your husband dies early on in the marriage, then you are 14 or 15 with no future. So to cope with that situation, in that time there was something called the Levirate marriage rules. And these were great. Because the deal was, if you're the father-in-law of the widow, you say to another one of your sons, your dead brother's wife, please will you look after her now? Your responsibility as a father-in-law. If there's a widow down there in your family, you say to your next brother, to the next brother along, you say, please will you marry her and will you take care of her? Otherwise, she will have no future. Now, clearly that is not the way we do things today, but as you can see in that culture, that was a great way of dealing with tragedy, to give that widow a future by giving her a new husband and maybe giving her children. So, Tamar, is dead, so Tamar, see it on the family tree there, Tamar marries her husband's younger brother, Onan. And this is where it did get a bit grubby and a bit explicit in the text. But the long and the short of it was that Onan turned out to be just as wicked as his elder brother. So the Lord acted in judgment against him too. And this is the point where Judah really shows his true colours. Because brother number 3 now is in line to marry Tamar under these rules. Brother number 3 is actually too young for marriage. So Judah says to Tamar, tell you what, love, you go and live with your dad. And I'll send word to you when Sheila gets older. What's wrong with that, we ask? Well, verse 11 tells us what's really going on. Verse 11, Judah then said to his daughter-in-law Tamar, live as a widow in your father's house until my son Sheila grows up. And this is the point, for he thought he may die too, just like his brothers. So can you see what's going on here? Outwardly, Judah is saying to Tamar, go and live with your dad for a bit. But inwardly, he's saying, and I'll make sure we never ever see you again because you, girl, are trouble. That's what he's saying, isn't it? 2 of my sons have died because of you. You're not coming anywhere near my 3rd son. Don't call us, we'll call you. Now we just need to ponder very carefully what is going on here. Judah's sons died at God's behest because they were thoroughly wicked men. And Judah is in complete denial of that. No, not my boys, he was saying, it's this girl's fault. And so we have this teenage girl. That was his responsibility. Tamar is entitled to her father-in-law living up to his responsibilities. But in that culture, he really is the father-in-law from hell because he's showing her the door. Judah is a man with no morals. But of course we know this already, don't we? Because half a dozen verses earlier, he sold another teenager, his own brother, into slavery. Judah, the man with no morals. Tamar, the girl with no shame. Well, Shelah, the son number 3, he does grow up, and surprise, surprise, Judah does not give Tamar a call. So, Tamar sets up what we would call today a honey trap. This girl, in her maybe late teens by now, disguises herself and dresses up like a tart. Interestingly, she seems to know this would work. It seems that Judah's reputation has gone before him. She seems to know that Judah wouldn't hesitate to wind down the car window if someone was standing by the curbside. Judah appears to be quite a dab hand at this. Verse 15, when Judah saw her, he thought she was a prostitute, for she had covered her face. Verse 16, not realizing that she was his daughter-in-law, he went over to her by the roadside and said, "Come now, let me sleep with you." "And what will you give me to sleep with you?" she asked. "I'll send you a young goat from my flock," he said. "Will you give me something as a pledge until you send it?" she asked. He said, "What pledge shall I give you?" "Your seal in its cord and the staff in your hand," she answered. So he gave them to her and slept with her, and she became pregnant by him. After she left, she took off her veil and put on her widow's clothes again. A seal in ancient times is how you signed documents. Possibly it was on a cord around your neck, possibly it was on a cord that was on your staff. The price to have sex with me, says Tamar, is a goat. You haven't got a goat with you, have you? No, never mind. Give me your seal as a pledge. A bit like today saying, give me your wallet, and when you give me the cash, I'll give you your wallet back. This is so sordid, isn't it? This is what sells tabloid newspapers today. Tamar tricking her father-in-law to have sex with her. Judah, just another bit of casual sex with a cool girl. The story moves on. Judah, the man with no morals. Tamar, the girl with no shame. Burn the whore alive. Judah is oblivious to the fact that he has just committed incest. But he learns that Tamar has become a prostitute. And oh dear, she is pregnant. And you can feel the sense of pleasure he has in hearing that news. Yep, I knew she was an evil girl. I knew it was nothing to do with my boys. Verse 24, about 3 months later, Judah was told, "Your daughter-in-law Tamar is guilty of prostitution, and as a result she is now pregnant." Judah said, "Bring her out and have her burned to death." I'm told that in the original Hebrew, that sentence is just 2 words. Take, burn. Now, we don't have capital punishment in the UK today. We are aware that in that culture there was capital punishment. But we need also to be aware that Judah's words go far beyond any proper judicial sentence, even at that time. Burn her alive. Torture. Torture her so she dies in excruciating agony. Judah's words are the height of cruelty and vindictiveness and sheer hatred. Probably, as I've said, with a bit of glee mixed in there. But then, and this is actually the climax of the story, my fourth heading, Judah's recognition. Verse 25, as she was being brought out, she sent a message to her father-in-law. I am pregnant by the man who owns these, she said. And she added, see if you recognize whose seal and cord and staff these are. Verse 26, Judah recognized them and said, she is more righteous than I, since I wouldn't give her to my son Shelah. And he did not sleep with her again. As she was being brought out, that means that as Tamar was being brought out to face execution, the fire presumably would have been lit. She sends word to Judah, do you recognize these? Showing him his seal. I don't know what you think. I think verse 26 is one of the most moving verses in the whole Bible. Verse 26, Judah's persona, his whole persona, just collapses. And this manipulative, vindictive girl who had tricked him into committing incest with her, and she was manipulative and vindictive. She is more righteous than I am. Judah recognizes, Judah sees more than his seal. Judah sees more than the wallet he left behind. Judah sees himself as he really is. Judah sees how repulsive he really is. Judah sees how morally bankrupt he really is. How humiliating for Judah to own up. How humiliating for him to admit that he slept with his daughter-in-law for a goat. How humiliating for him to admit in that society that he'd abandoned her. He had duped her out of her security. He had tossed her aside. How astonishing that he now sees himself as the guiltier one by a mile. My fifth heading. God's unmerited mercy and blessing. Where do I get that heading from? Well, verse 26, Jesus recognized those things and said, she is more righteous than I, since I wouldn't give her to my son Shelah. And he did not sleep with her again. When the time came for her to give birth, there were twin boys in her womb. As she was giving birth, one of them put out his hand. So the midwife took a scarlet thread and tied it on his wrist and said, this one came out first. But when he drew back his hand, his brother came out. And she said, so this is how you have broken out. And he was named Perez. Then his brother, who had the scarlet thread on his wrist, came out, and he was given the name Zerah. Funny little story, but it's Perez I want to focus in on. Because their second son, and again if you look at the family tree, their second son, Perez would have children, those children would have children, those children would have children, there would be a great long list of descendants, and that should be a dotted line there, not a fixed line, because ultimately Perez would have a descendant whose name was Jesus. Isn't that quite something? God used this deeply immoral man. God used this shameless girl and this sordid chapter to bring the Lord Jesus into the world. Isn't that quite something? There isn't time now, but if you look at one of the genealogies, the great long list of names at the beginning of Matthew's Gospel, just before the Christmas story, you will see that there is a list of special ancestors of Jesus, each of whom in some unique way points us to the Lord Jesus. And sure enough, in that list, you will find the names Judah and Tamar. Very few girls in that list of names, but Tamar, the shameless girl, is there. And indeed, the next time in Genesis that we hear the name Judah, when the writer goes back to him in the Joseph story, we will see an utterly changed man. Let me finish with just 3 thoughts which I've listed there. My sin. Some of us have got very sinful pasts. And some of us in our congregations are ensnared in our sinfulness, even in the present. And this chapter shows me that there is nothing that God is not able to sort and forgive. This chapter shows me that there is nothing that I have done to others that God cannot forgive. The betrayal of the behaviour of these two people towards each other, there's the betrayal, there's the sexual manipulation, there's the hatred, there's the wanting to torture someone to death. There is nothing that God cannot sort and forgive. Let me remind you of what Judah and Tamar's descendants many years later would do. What would he do? He would die on a cross, taking the sin of all those who cry to him for mercy onto himself. If you have cried to God for mercy concerning things in your past, if you are determined to make Jesus the Lord of your life, please be assured you are forgiven. You are even forgiven that horrendous thing that you dare not utter to anyone. And if you have not cried to God for mercy, if you are not making him the Lord of your life, well, you really need to. My sin is forgivable. Secondly, God's mercy. God's real mercy here is causing Judah to recognise the depths of his depravity. Judah needed to know how unrighteous he was. But Judah was too busy writing other people off. Writing Joseph off, writing Tamar off. And the tragedy is that some of us here this morning will be thinking, yeah, so-and-so does that. Which, of course, if I'm saying that, means I'm no better than Judah. The mercy of God in this chapter is in him causing Judah to recognise his deep sinfulness. We need God to show us our unrighteousness so that we can confess, because when we confess we find forgiveness and freedom and blessing. My sin is forgivable. I need God's ongoing mercy. And thirdly, your sin. How do I view your sin in the light of this chapter? How do you view each other's sin in the light of this chapter? She's done that, has she? Well, that doesn't surprise me, because that's just the sort of person she is. Oh, she's going to be humiliated. Well, actually, probably that's maybe not such a bad thing. How the mighty fall. Those sentiments are in the same vein as burn the whore alive, aren't they? Those are the thoughts of moral outrage of the studio audience. No. How am I going to view your sin? Well, surely my starting point is to wonder whether what you have done is a patch on some of the things I've done in my time. Those things I have done and yet confessed and received unmerited mercy from God. Am I really going to look down on you? Surely if I have received such mercy, I will simply want to gently point you to the one who is able to similarly bestow mercy on you. Surely if we have received such mercy, we will want to gently point each other to the one who is able to similarly bestow mercy.